So recently, some images were leaked about Christopher Nolan's upcoming Odyssey film starring Matt Damon as Odysseus, and I have a few thoughts, and none of them are really positive, unfortunately. I apologise for the sort of setup of this video here. I'm actually away on a trip and really wanted to get something out on this whilst it was new, and some of you have asked for my thoughts on this. So forgive me that the quality of this video won't be up to par with most of the other stuff on the channel, but hey, I thought I'd just try and get it out here anyways. When I first heard that Christopher Nolan was making an Odyssey film, I was very excited. I'm quite a fan of Christopher Nolan's films. I very much like him as a director, and the Odyssey I think is a really neat story, which hasn't really been tackled in modern cinema. And I thought, out of all the directors to have tackled this, I thought Christopher Nolan could do a really, really good job. And unfortunately, the costume department, I cannot say the same. Now, the Odyssey is, of course, a mythological story written by Homer, and it is thought to have taken place, late Bronze Age, so around 1200 BC, approximately. This isn't confirmed, but this seems to be the sort of academic consensus on this sort of time period. Hollywood being Hollywood, instead of giving us something worthy of a king or worthy of the time period, has given us this, which is very lackluster, and to me, this looks like one of those AI generated images. It looks like they went into one of those AI generating image softwares and said, show me Matt Damon as Odysseus, and they replicated that AI rubbish one to one. And this just really doesn't do it for me. I especially am upset when I found out that they actually got in contact with Hellenic Armours, who's a Greek armor maker who makes armor replicas for museums, about making some Mycenaean era armor for the film. However, it fell short, and then they pumped out this. Of course, it is a film, it doesn't have to be historically accurate, and of course, the Iliad and the Odyssey themselves aren't likely historically accurate either. But I think it would look really cool if we actually saw some, maybe not even one-to-one replicas of Mycenaean armor, but some armor that looked like it would have been worn by an aristocratic member of this time period. So instead of this weird, grungy, dark black leather and brown cloaks, give us some rich reds, give us some purples, give us some polished bronze armor that makes Odysseus feel like a king. And you could almost incorporate this into the narrative of the film, of him starting out this very regal, sort of polished and well-kept warrior, and as he goes on his treacherous odyssey, becomes more and more sort of damaged and dilapidated and grungy. I think that that could have been used as almost a storytelling asset, as opposed to what we sort of have here. Again, it literally looks like your standard AI junk. The helmet looks like it's fresh out of a museum being super oxidized for no reason. It should be highly taken care of and highly polished, or maintained at least. And he's wearing leather, just stuff, a browny, grey, greeny sort of cloak. And it just really, it made me really disappointed. I understand that this doesn't mean that the film is going to be bad. I understand that people have talked about the cast, people have talked about other sort of things about the film. Fundamentally, if the film has a good story and is well acted, then of course enjoy the film. But I still don't think that should give us the excuse to just brush over the costuming side, because this is our first view of this film, which in a way is our first view of the quality of this film. And if this is the quality that your main protagonist is being outfitted in, then it does unfortunately make me question the quality of which the rest of the film is going to be presented. I'm not asking for something 100% historically accurate, I'm just asking for something better than this. This is just really disappointing, especially for someone like Christopher Nolan, who otherwise goes through great lengths to try and get, practicals and well-made parts for all of his films. And I think that this is really a step back from Christopher Nolan's quality that he otherwise strives for pumping out this very disappointing, I don't really know how to describe it. It looks like an AI generated image of Matt Damon. Um, Even if they wanted to go for a more recognizable sort of classical or archaic hoplite, I have no issue with that. Right, archaic and classical artists often depict Homeric heroes in the armament of the time, and it is far more recognizable and sort of famous than the sort of Dendra style Mycenaean armor that perhaps would have been more likely seen in this time period. Um, So I'm not even necessarily asking for mycene armor. I think that would have been really cool to see on the silver screen, as we don't really see it at all. But even if you wanted to go for that sort of classical or archaic style hoplite, just do it a little bit more respectfully and well done. Again, I think it would look far more striking instead of always depicting our historical um, ancestors or people of the past in films as muddy, dirty, grungy, goth-looking people. Show the vivid colors. Show the um, you know the exquisiteness of their clothing and their armament. Show how they maintained it. And again, I think that you could have used it as a storytelling sort of asset of seeing him start out as a very well kept, regal looking king and ending up as a patchwork, dirtied, grungy man. Even the helmet here, you could have gone with something like an Illyrian style helmet or another helmet that's not this weird, just mix match of different sort of helmets. I understand why Hollywood wants to show faces of their actors. Well, then give them a helmet that was a historically open-faced helmet. Illyrian helmets, again, for this sort of archaic period, would have fitted very well. You could have given him a helmet that still is nicely maintained and polished, and you can still clearly see Matt Damon's face, his acting behind that helmet. It's not covered up, but instead they have this really weird-looking Illyrian, Corinthian fantasy thing that just looks weird. Coming down, he has just what looks like black leather thorax of some kind, which, again, you could have even given him leather armor if you wanted to make it like a tube and yoke style armor of the time, a spolas of the time. But no, it just sort of almost looks like some Legend of the Eagle Bearer, Assassin's Creed stuff. His cloak, again, I would have loved to have seen some vibrancy, and of course he's got van braces, which aren't even necessarily a problem for this time period. We see van braces in the late Bronze Age and the Archaic period, but this, I think it looks like aged metal, but why does it look so blackened and just horribly maintained? I genuinely think that this image would look so much cooler if it was bright, vibrant, polished, and he looked regal, he looked like a king. And again, and this just hits even harder to me when I learnt that they were legitimately thinking about getting Hellenic armors to produce the armor. That would have looked so cool to see that on screen. It would have been so cool to see that in a film. Some really nice replicated Bronze Age armor for this new blockbuster film. And I just think it's really, really stepped short in that regard. And there's a lot of people, which I think quite rightly, are disappointed with this. And again, this isn't necessarily saying that the film is going to be bad, but for me, if this is what you release as your sort of teaser image of your film, it is clear to me that the care that this film deserves isn't necessarily there if you pump out something that looks like this. I hope the film is good. I will watch the film when it comes out. I really, really do hope that it's a good film. I hope that this is just a disappointing costuming department, which happens too often in Hollywood. But I really expected something more for this film, and I am really quite disappointed to see what they gave us. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video. Again, I apologise that the quality is not as my regular videos are, but I hope that it suffices your questions that you had when you were asking me what I thought about this armor. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one.